There's no doubt about it, we're watching America go into a moral and economic slide with catastrophic consequences. Is there any reason for any hope at all? Well, yes there is. I want to introduce you to Kevin Conover and Educate for Life. As you watch this video, you're about to see some things that I think will encourage you. Kevin Conover is a brilliant young scholar. I've seen him in operation. He's engaging, he's highly informative, and let me assure you, he knows the stuff. And Educate for Life, well, that's an organization designed to equip you and resource you and your offspring to help us rise up together to make a difference in this land and restore this country to its once greatness. I hope you'll enjoy what you're about to watch, the historical perspective that he gives. I pray you'll support and encourage Kevin Conover and Educate for Life. Enjoy it.
And now, Almighty Father, if it is thy holy will that we shall obtain a place and name among the nations of the earth, grant that we may be enabled to show our gratitude for thy goodness by our endeavors to fear and obey thee. George Washington.
Where we once were, we are no longer a Christian nation, at least not just. We are also a Jewish nation, a Muslim nation, and a Buddhist nation, and a Hindu nation, and a nation of non-believers.
No purpose of action against religion can be imputed to any legislation, state or national, because this is a religious people. This is a Christian nation. Supreme Court, 1892.
Your understanding is that the federal court ordered that you could not acknowledge God, isn't that right?
Yes.
And if you resume your duties as Chief Justice after this proceeding, you will continue to acknowledge God as you have testified that you would today.
Absolutely.
No matter what any other official says.
Absolutely. Without, if I can clarify that, without an acknowledgement of God, I cannot do my duty. I must acknowledge God. It says so in the Constitution of Alabama. It says so in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution.
During the trial of this matter, Chief Justice maintained his defiance. The Chief Justice showed no signs of contrition for his actions. Finding no other viable alternatives, this court hereby orders that Roy S. Moore be removed from his position of Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Alabama. This court is now adjourned.
God who gave us life gave us liberty. And can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis? A conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are of the gift of God? Thomas Jefferson.
I was convicted of 2 criminal misdemeanors for ringing the bells of the church.
San Diego County is demanding a local pastor fork up thousands of dollars to host Bible study at his own home.
In Michigan, activists disrupted a Sunday morning service protesting the church's biblical views on morality and homosexual behavior. In California, pastors and church members were threatened with violence and loss of employment for supporting a state amendment restoring marriage as the union of one man and one woman.
And we don't ever want them coming back, ever. Do you understand the other Christians? Do you understand that other Mormons? I'm talking to you people. Yeah, you.
Our country has drifted far from God. But why? What caused it to change, and is it possible that this country is already in the process of returning to its Christian roots? Now, education is at the center of this issue. So let's take a look at how American education has changed over time, the impact these changes have had on our nation, and the exciting movement that is bringing Bible-based education to hundreds of thousands of young students across the country.
Our citizens should early understand that the genuine source of correct Republican principles is the Bible, particularly the New Testament or the Christian religion. Noah Webster.
Our country used to praise and embrace Christianity. From the 1600s to the 1900s, American public school textbooks taught children about God, Jesus Christ, sin, and salvation. One of those textbooks was Noah Webster's Blueback Speller, and more copies of that book have been sold than any other book except the Bible. More than 80 million copies of Webster's spelling book have been sold by the early 1900s. America's kids grew up learning biblical truths. Here's an excerpt from the Blueback Speller. "No man may put off the law of God. My joy is in his law all the day. O man, not go in the way of sin. Let me not go in the way of ill men." But today there is a war against Christianity in our country that began in our schools. In Poway, California, a public school teacher was told he couldn't refer to God in posters. At Georgia University, a Christian student was expelled for her views on homosexuality. In Texas, cheerleaders were told not to put Bible verses on their banners. And the Air Force recently removed God from their logo due to pressure from atheist groups. So how did this happen? How did Christianity lose so much ground? In 1859, Charles Darwin published a book that introduced his theory of evolution to the world. It was called On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. After his book was published, Darwin's ideas began to take hold in Europe, and eventually made their way to America. Then in 1920, the American Civil Liberties Union was founded. Christian attorney Alan Sears said the ACLU is the #1 religious censor in America. The following are some of the stated goals directly from the ACLU's own policy guide. The decriminalization and legalization of all drugs, the promotion of homosexuality, opposition against parental consent of minors seeking an abortion, opposition of parental choice in children's education, and many more. From its conception, the ACLU was against everything America and Christianity stood for. The ACLU's founder, Roger Baldwin, stated, "We are for socialism, disarmament, and ultimately for abolishing the state itself. We seek the social ownership of property, the abolition of the propertied class, and the sole control of those who produce wealth. Communism is the goal." And in 1925, the combination of Darwinism and the ACLU culminated during the famous Scopes monkey trial in Dayton, Tennessee. The Scopes trial was instigated by the ACLU, who made an offer to defend any teacher that would deliberately teach evolution in violation of Tennessee law. John Scopes, a substitute biology teacher who normally taught gym class, volunteered to serve the ACLU's purpose. Although Scopes was found guilty of teaching evolution, and the supporters of evolution lost the case, they gained a lot of positive press. During the trial, the ACLU made the Christian prosecutor look foolish. The Scopes trial created the public perception that learning about evolution was an academic freedom that was being unjustly suppressed by religious fundamentalists. Prior to this case, the vast majority of the American public considered the Bible to be both scientifically and historically accurate, without mistakes. But now, for the first time, science and the Bible looked like they were in conflict. This was the beginning of a change in the public education system. Up until then, every American child was trained in the truth of the Bible and Christian morality. But that, however, was all about to change.
I am much afraid that the universities will prove to be the great gates of hell unless they diligently labor in explaining the Holy Scriptures and engraving them in the hearts of youth. I advise no one to place his child where the Scriptures do not reign paramount. Every institution in which men are not unceasingly occupied with the Word of God must become corrupt. Martin Luther.
After 1925, the Christian community had very little scientific response. Many Christians conceded that maybe the earth was millions of years older than the Bible indicated, even if they didn't accept that evolution was true. The ACLU and evolutionary ideology spread unhindered, slowly pushing the Bible out of American education. In 1947, the ACLU was one of the leading advocates in the court case Everson Board of Education, which for the first time ever prevented any state funds from supporting Christian education in public schools. In 1954, the Johnson Amendment was passed, limiting the ability of church pastors to speak out on so-called political issues and candidates. In 1961, Henry Morris, the father of the scientific creationism movement, published his landmark book, The Genesis Flood, but it was too late to prevent what would happen during the next few years. In the 1962 case, Engel versus Vitale, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that official school prayer in public schools was unconstitutional. And in 1963, the Supreme Court ruled in Abington School District versus Schempp that it is unconstitutional for public schools to require Bible reading. Finally, in 1968, the Supreme Court ruled in Epperson versus Arkansas that laws prohibiting the teaching of evolution are unconstitutional. At that point, schools were now the playground of secular humanist philosophy. Evolution could be taught freely, and the Bible was officially banned.
The most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason but with no morals. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. Martin Luther King, Jr.
So what happens when we stop teaching public school students that there is a God and that there is an absolute standard of right and wrong? C.S. Lewis said, "Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil." It turns out he was right. Before 1963, many schools regularly started their day with prayer, and the Bible was used as a primary textbook. But the changes that took place after prayer and the Bible were banned are nothing short of shocking. USA Today published an article that lists the top offenses in public schools prior to 1963 as talking, chewing gum, making noise, running in the halls, getting out of turn in line, wearing improper clothing, and not putting paper in wastebaskets. The top offenses in the public schools for the next generation were rape, robbery, assault, burglary, arson, bombings, murder, suicide, absenteeism, and vandalism.
Bullying is now such a rampant problem that 1 out of every 3 public school students claim to be bullied each week.
I've been teaching in Christian high schools for 7 years, and I've seen only one fight in that entire time. On the other hand, I attended a public high school myself, and there wasn't a week that went by without a fight. The New York Times recently reported on the front page that police officers who have been hired by some public schools are giving out too many citations to students at school, and problems are so severe in many public schools that students have to pass through metal detectors before attending classes. It's extremely difficult for a child to focus on his academics when these kinds of problems are going on around him. And this is reflected in the quality of students our schools are producing. A 2009 study showed that American students ranked 25th among 34 countries, behind nations like China, Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Finland. In 1993, Barbara Reynolds wrote a column in USA Today titled, "Your Kids Go Ape in School? Here's Why." In the article, she says, prohibiting the teaching of creationism in favor of evolution promotes an atheistic, belligerent attitude that might explain why your kids sometimes perform like Godzilla instead of children made in the image of God. If evolution is forced on our kids, we shouldn't be surprised when they beat on their chests, or worse, beat on each other and their teachers. A perfect example of Reynolds' point is a song by the Bloodhound Gang called "The Bad Touch" that came out in 1999 with the lyrics, "You and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel." And not surprisingly, teen pregnancies went from approximately 100,000 per year in 1963 to 700,000 per year only 16 years later, a 500% increase even after adjusting for population growth. Clearly, the removal of the Bible and prayer from schools in 1963 has had an impact, and unfortunately, this impact carries on into society after students graduate from high school. The number of divorces tripled between 1962 and 1981, and in 1970, no-fault divorce was legalized starting in California for the first time. Roe v. Wade followed shortly after, making abortion legal in all 50 states with a current death toll of over 50 million babies. Up until 1961, homosexual behavior was illegal in all 50 states. By 1989, 24 states had repealed their laws against homosexuality, and in 2003, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the remaining 13 states' laws, making homosexuality legal in all 50 states. Even worse is the fact that fewer people are being exposed to Christianity, and predictably, fewer people are becoming Christians. In 2009, CNN published an article stating that Americans who call themselves Christians had dropped from 86% to 75% over the last 20 years. Even scarier is the fact that current studies indicate 8 out of every 10 Christian kids who attend public schools will leave the church after high school. So why are they leaving? Ken Ham published a book explaining that 39.8% of young people had their first doubts about the Bible in middle school, 43.7% in high school, and only 10.6% of Christians who no longer believe the entire Bible had their first doubts in college. You see, the main problem isn't college. The problem is that middle and high school students are not getting answers to their questions about the Bible. Something needs to change, and it needs to change now.
But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? Romans 10:14.
In Proverbs 22 it says, "Train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old he will not depart from it." Unfortunately, this is not happening for most American children. The main obstacle preventing our country from returning to God is that the case for Christianity is not allowed to be taught in public schools. And the fact is that kids spend about 40 hours per week in public schools and only 2 hours per week at church, if they even attend church at all. But the situation isn't hopeless. Far from it. There is a movement happening in our country right now that has the potential to undo much of the damage done over the past century as Christianity makes a sweeping comeback in our educational system. That movement is school choice. School choice allows parents to send their child to a private Christian school, most often at no extra cost if they feel the local public school is not meeting their child's needs. It allows parents to decide who educates their children, not the state. School choice is reopening the door for the teaching of biblical truth in the schools of America. And it's not something we're trying to get off the ground. School choice is already happening, and it's something we want to jump in on and be a part of. The sooner every state in our country embraces this movement, the sooner America will return to God and be the shining city on a hill she is supposed to be. The Wall Street Journal called 2011 the year of school choice, and school choice programs have continued to expand. 18 states and the District of Columbia provided some type of private school choice as of 2011. And in 2012, Virginia joined the school choice family, New Hampshire's legislature passed a school choice measure, Florida and Arizona expanded their programs, and Louisiana dramatically increased the scope of its school choice program. The state with the most students benefiting from private school choice is Florida, with more than 76,000 students in 2 programs. Both Republicans and Democrats have embraced the incredible advantages that school choice provides the underprivileged children of their state. Watch this quick clip of a school choice rally in Florida.
This is about empowering low-income families to be able to match their child to the learning environment that best meets their needs. This is about providing equal opportunity for all people, regardless of their income, regardless of their skin color. This is making sure every mother and every father has a chance to educate their child in the way they need to educate them.
What do you want? When do you want it? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so proud to tell you that regardless of party, Florida stands for you. There's no partisan politics about kids. It's all about doing what's right first and foremost. As long as we put the children first, we cannot get it wrong.
I am here today as a messenger of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and I'm here to proudly proclaim that the organization created by Dr. King believes that a scholarship for low-income children is one way to break the cycle and close the gap. This is about fulfilling that very American promise of equal educational opportunity.
What we are quite frankly sick and tired of is that the most important thing, which is our education, cannot continue to be decided by a 5-digit zip code at the end of my address.
I have had parents to approach me and tell me about the problems that their kids have had in different schools. And because of this alternative, their kids have been turned around and have the opportunity to excel and to be the best that they can possibly be.
These scholarships are critical to providing opportunities, and we stand by you, and we are proud to help you all get a step up.
These teachers teach in public schools. That's right. They are public school teachers who are here to fight for options for underprivileged Hispanic children.
Choice is important. Choice is important. When we have our children, it is important for us to be able to determine how we want them to be educated.
Without the scholarship, I would probably have dropped out of school Today, I am proud to say that after all the challenges that I faced, I am college bound.
Currently, more than 245,000 children are in publicly funded private school choice programs nationwide. This is 245,000 students who would have been educated in the godless moral vacuum that is our public education system, and are now learning the Bible and hearing the gospel, as well as receiving a better and safer education. These students will grow up, become leaders in society, and lead our country towards God instead of away from Him. Educate for Life exists to provide students the opportunity to hear biblical truth by supporting the school choice movement and supplying parents and teachers with high-quality Christian apologetics curriculum. Our three primary goals are, number one, providing comprehensive apologetics curriculum to Christian parents and teachers to train their children and students. Number two, providing an online apologetics school where both adults and students can take live classes from Christian scholars and educators, including myself. And number three, making private school choice legal in California like it is in many other states by building a coalition of like-minded individuals who believe all students should have the opportunity to attend a safe Christian school regardless of their family's financial situation. So far, Educate for Life has had tremendous success. We recently took a survey of students who finished the full year of Educate for Life curriculum. 72% said that before the class, they were confident in Christianity but couldn't explain why. The Bible describes a person in this position in Ephesians 4 as an infant who is tossed back and forth and blown here and there by every wind of teaching. These are the young people in danger of slowly walking away from Christianity because of the nagging doubts that have persisted. But after a year of being educated with our Christian apologetics curriculum, 98.4% said they were much more confident in Christianity and could explain why it was true and why other beliefs were false. Educate for Life has been instrumental in helping students to embrace Christ fully and to put on the full armor of God as they prepare to take a stand for Christ in college and also in our culture. But we need your help to get this message out to more people, and we operate on a no-debt policy. Creating high-quality curriculum and online resources is costly and only possible as God moves you to support our efforts. Educate for Life is a nonprofit 501c3 Christian education ministry, and any contribution is completely tax-deductible. Please listen to some of the testimonials we've received from past students and consider supporting our ministry.
Taking this class will not only strengthen your faith in Christianity, but it will open your eyes and change the way you view the world. You really get to understand Christianity and learn how to prove that it is true. Jin Lee, high school junior.
This class strengthened my relationship with God in many ways. It has given me a confidence in Christianity that I never had before. I now feel prepared to go out in the world and take a stand for my faith. This class equipped me with all kinds of facts and logic that are necessary to stand up for the Christian faith. Ben Canfield, high school senior, valedictorian.
This class really opened my eyes. I always knew Christianity was true, but I never knew how to really articulate it. Now I can finally start talking to other people about Christianity, because I know it's true and have good reasons to defend it. Alyssa Harris, high school junior.
This was the most interesting and informative class I've ever taken. This class did more to strengthen my beliefs and trust in Christianity than anything I've ever experienced. If you have any doubts or questions, this class will provide you with the answers you are looking for. Polly Ulrich, high school senior.
I would highly recommend taking this class. I've learned more in this class than most other classes I've ever taken. It is interesting and enlightening. Any doubts you have about the Christian worldview are put to rest. Sarah Van Roy, high school junior.
This was my favorite class I had all year. I loved learning about how to defend my faith. It not only helped me defend Christianity, but how to grow in my faith and become a better example to others of my faith and love for Christ. Emily White, high school junior.
In this class, you really learn about why the Bible is 100% correct and irrefutable. It is extremely interesting and fun. It really strengthened my relationship with the Lord. Logan Ralph, high school senior.
This class did wonders for my faith. Leaving this class, I feel more than prepared to defend my faith against other religions and prevalent social issues. Isabel Brown, high school junior.
In my 6 years of Bible classes, I have never once had a class so unique in its ability to provide invaluable knowledge that you don't typically receive from a church youth group or even a Christian school. The information needed to support your faith and the ability to understand the theory of evolution and why it is false are a must-have for any Christian who wants to go through college without stumbling. Chad Karcheski, high school senior.
This class truly impacted not only my knowledge of Christianity, but my faith in Jesus Christ. Instead of living by blind faith, I can now live with faith in Jesus Christ, knowing the evidence for his existence and truth. Alicia Duenas, high school senior.